Welcome back, everybody. My name is Nick. This is Swiftful Thinking, and this is a highly requested video. We're going to cover the observable macro, and it's been very heavily requested. I know a lot of you guys are already using it, so you may not need the video. I'm a little late to the game, but I still need to cover it because this is going to be incredibly important for years to come, quite frankly. So in iOS 17, Apple released support for macros. I haven't covered how to use or build macros on the channel yet, but there are some macros that come out of the box that we can start using today. So without actually knowing how macros fully work, we can start to use some of them in our code. And so the observable macro is probably the most common, most important one to learn, and that's what we're going to spend our time looking at in this video. So earlier in this playlist and prior to iOS 17, anytime we created an observable object, so an object that is a class that is outside of the view. So we have our SwiftUI views, and then we have like our view models, or we have some sort of observable object, some sort of manager class, environment object, anything that conformed to the observable object protocol. So anytime you've been using like @published, the @published is specific for observable objects. So if you've been using an @published, you've been using observable objects. Anytime we have those objects, we can now use the observable macro instead of the observable object protocol. And in this video, we're going to look at how to implement the new macro and how to migrate from the old way to the new way. Now, there's a couple things here that I want to point out. First and foremost is that you do not have to migrate or refactor your code base today. The observable macro is only for apps that support iOS 17 and up. So most SwiftUI apps, most iOS apps are still supporting older versions, iOS 16, iOS 15, and below. So if you're in that bucket, you can't use the observable macro yet, and I wouldn't even worry about it until you're iOS 17 and above. But if you are 17 and above, you can refactor. But what I want to point out is that refactoring the code is probably not going to change much to your actual app. There are slight performance benefits to the observable macro. There's people that have been written articles about this. However, those benefits are going to be so slight that the vast majority of apps do not need to refactor and should just gradually refactor when you have time, when you're changing that screen or something like that. If you're building a new app, definitely go ahead and use the observable macro. But if you're going to refactor, I would put this on your list, but maybe not make it top priority. In this video, we're going to look at how to refactor it. We're also going to look at the Apple documentation that explains how to do this refactor. So in this video, we're going to learn all about how to use @observable. We're going to look at an implementation. We're going to look at a way to refactor from the old way to the new way. The last thing that I will point out is if you're following this playlist and you're following this channel, there are a bunch of apps on this channel that use what we're going to now call the old way, the observable object protocol. So for example, if you do the to-do list app or the map app or the crypto app on my channel, those are all going to use the observable object protocol and not the observable macro. And you guys are more than welcome to change that code as you're going through it to use the observable macro. But what I would actually recommend is just sticking with the code as is, because realistically, the difference between the two is not really material. The app should still work the same way. And most of the code bases that you're going to work in are going to support, at least today in 2024, are still going to support below iOS 17. So it's probably a very rare chance that you're actually going to be using the observable macro in production unless you're building your own app from scratch right now. Anyway, enough of me talking. Let's jump into Xcode and write some code. Everybody, a very important video here, much more important than the last couple of videos I've covered. We're going to talk about the observable macro. So we're going to just talk about the implementation here, how we can use it, a little bit about why we are switching to this. This has been pretty popular from iOS 17, so a lot of you guys are probably already starting to use it. But this is another thing that is iOS 17 and up. So a lot of our old apps, most SwiftUI apps cannot use this just yet. But let's talk about it because we need to know where our code base is going to go as we move forward. So let's right click the navigator, create a new file. SwiftUI view, and we'll call this Observable Bootcamp. Click Create. You'll notice this word observable is very similar to the keyword observed object that we have used many times in SwiftUI. So if you've been building SwiftUI apps and you followed this playlist, I did some videos back about we built view models and we talked about observable objects. We even used some environment objects and put them into the environment of our apps. And to do that, we use this protocol called observable object. And we had to make our view models conform to state object. And then we had to put them as objects into the environment. And basically, anytime we created some sort of class that was going to publish updates to the view, so anytime we've been using this @published, we've had to make that object, the class object, conform to observable object. And then we had to initialize it in our view with a state object. And then when we passed it around our view, we either needed to use environment object, or when we passed it to a child view, we would use something called observed object. And so while all of that still compiles and all of that still works, there is a new way to write all of this code. And it's with the @observed macro. The reason this has changed is primarily because these macros were not available or even possible in the Swift language until recently. And now they are, it's how we should start using all of our code. So I'm going to jump back to our observable bootcamp here. And I'm going to actually pull up, if you just Google like Apple observable macro, this is probably the first link that comes up. So Apple actually gave us some really good documentation on how to migrate from the observable object protocol, which is what I just showed you guys, to the observable macro. So then we can use this macro rather than the observable object. Before we begin, I just want to throw out that if you have an existing app that's already using observable object, there is no rush to convert to the observable macro, especially if you're supporting below iOS 17, because this is only available for iOS 17 and up. So if you're supporting old versions, I wouldn't even worry about converting to the new macro until you are iOS 17 and up. It is better to have the observable macro. There can be some performance benefits, but for 99% of apps, it is not worth it. So don't kill yourself in this major refactor if you don't need to, is what I'm saying. Use the observable object for your apps. It's going to stay compiling probably forever, and refactor and migrate when you are ready. And when you're ready, Apple actually has a really great document here on how to do it. The before version, we would create our view model or some class and conform to the observable object protocol. Now, we don't conform to the protocol. Instead, we mark the class as @observable. This is adding in a macro to our class. A macro is basically going to add code into this class before we actually even create it. So instead of us saying that this is a library class that conforms to this object, the macro is going to say, this is a library class, and let's install all of this other logic into the class automatically. So we're just going to mark it as @observable, and that's going to basically do this for us. When you're working in an observable class, you no longer need the @published keyword. So previously, anything that we wanted to update the view, we would use @published var, and then every time that publish gets updated, the view would understand that. By default, everything inside observable is going to be observed by the view. So we don't need to manually tell it what is going to get published or what's not going to get published. It will just assume everything is getting published by default. If we ever want to have something that is in the class but is not publishing to the view, we actually have to add the observation ignored macro to that property. We're going to do all of this in just 1 second in code, but I want to just walk you guys through it. So we're converting observable object to observable. @published is now nothing. A couple more pointers here before we actually write some code. Migrate incrementally. I think this is great for Apple to say this. You don't need to do a major refactor. It's what I was saying before. As you start to get to iOS 17 support only, and as you start building new files, migrate. But I would not go crazy refactoring your whole code base today. In fact, I would think that's probably mostly a waste of time for most applications. Get there when you get there. Just know how to get there. A couple of things that we need to change in our code. Previously, when we created a view model or any sort of observed object, we would use state object to initialize it. That is no longer the case. That is because these objects are no longer observable objects, right? They are no longer conforming to observable object protocol. So we can't use state object if we don't use observable object. Instead, state object is now just a very simple @state. They're streamlining this. I love this. We use state for other things in SwiftUI. Now we use state for basically everything. As we come down here, it's also going to tell us, just like we can't use state object anymore, we can't use environment object anymore. Again, because it's not an observable object. So now we just use @environment instead of @environment object. And here we add it as a .environment rather than a .environment object. So very subtle differences in code, but these are doing a lot of different things under the hood. Last but not least is when we pass this object from a parent view to a child view, we would initialize it as a state object and then pass it as an observed object. So down here, you would pass it into a child view as an observed object. But now we pass it in as a bindable. So @observed object has now become @bindable. All right, that's enough talking for me. Let's just run through a quick example here. So firstly, I'm going to set it up the old way, and then we're going to convert to the new way. So let's add a class here and call this Observable View Model, conform to observable object, and open the brackets. In here, we'll do an @published private var. We'll call this title of type string, set it equal to some title to start, and we'll initialize this from our view with an @state object, private var view model, set it equal to observable view model. On the screen, let's just put the title. So we'll call view model.title. Sorry, let's not make it private. And then when we actually tap on this, let's make it a button. It's called view model.title. Action, we'll set the view model.title equal to new title. All right. Very simple. On my screen, I have some title. I click it and it says new title. Perfect. Let's also pass this object to a child view. So create here, I'm going to create a VStack and let's create a child view. Struct some child view, conform to view. Every view needs it as a body. Open the brackets. And we're going to pass this object from here to the child. So we're going to say @observed object var view model of type observed view model. And on the screen here, I'm just going to put the exact same UI. Cool. So in my parent VStack, let's also add some child view, and we will pass in the view model. Let's give this some spacing, maybe 40. All right. And if I click on the second one, let's just set the title to some random text. All right. Click on the first one, new title. Click on the second one, and the new title updates. So both of these are working, and we are passing that value directly from here to the child view. We're going to do one more where we have a struct called some third view, conform to view. Every view has a body, but this time we're going to pull it out of the environment. So we're going to say @environment object. Let's do var view model of type observable view model. And let's put in this button as well. And this time we'll update it to third view. All right. And now we're going to put some third view on the screen, which we don't need to pass it directly. And we're getting a crash real quick because, as you guys know, if you watch this playlist, environment object means we need to add it to the environment, right? So the view model, let's add it here to the environment. As an environment object, we'll add our view model and we're back in business. All right. Click that works. Click that works. Click this, it works. Perfect. This is the setup prior to iOS 17. If you can't use the observable macro, this is how you would do it. And I think most SwiftUI apps, probably for a long time, are going to have this setup because most apps are supporting below iOS 17 and they will be for a very long time. Let's now go and refactor this into the new world code. So first and foremost, according to Apple, remove observable object, replace it with @observable. Remove observable object, let's delete this, and let's make it @observable. All right. Secondly, remove the @published and replace it with nothing. Cool. Let's remove our @published and replace it with nothing. At state object now becomes at state. Let's go ahead and do that. At state object becomes at state. Dot environment object becomes dot environment. Environment object becomes environment. Environment object here also becomes environment with the class type. So coming down here, environment object also becomes environment with the class type of observation view model.self. And because the type is here, we don't need the type here. As I said earlier, this is iOS 17 only. So let's actually make this whole project iOS 17 and up. This is a good reminder that if you're building for below iOS 17, do not even worry about any of this yet. Lastly, we need to change the observed object to be at bindable. So let's go here. Observed object is now bindable. And let's see if this compiles. Let's click the buttons and it looks like they're all still working. So we have now migrated our code base here from the old version to the new version, from the observed object to the observable macro. This video for now was just an introduction to the basics, how to migrate from the old way to the new way. And again, I think most projects are going to keep that old way for a while. All right, and that is basically it for this video. We now know how to convert from observable object to observable. Just a reminder that previously we would mark things as at published. And if you ever had something that was previously not published, so for example, if I had some sort of value here, all right, if I converted my code base, the published things would then become nothing, but things that previously were not published would become at observation ignored. So by default now, everything is opting in to the publish and we have to ignore it. Whereas the default before was ignored and we had to opt in to the publish. So it's a little bit of a reverse now. Everything publishes by default, and then we add observation ignored if we want something to not publish updates to the view. That's it for this video. I'm going to do one other video in the Swift concurrency playlist where we again talk about the observable macro, but how it relates to actors and the main actor. Because just because we're conforming to observable does not change any of our threading logic. We still need to be sure that we are updating our UI from the main thread, and I'll talk about that more in an upcoming video in the Swift concurrency playlist. But that's it for this one. If you're just following my channel now, a lot of the videos coming up and in the future that you're going to hit are going to use the old version, the at observed object. And for the most part, I would say keep that code in your code base because the code is not going to break. It's going to be relevant for a very long time, and you should probably get used to working with it. This is the future. This is where our code bases are going to migrate towards, but it's not like those methods are deprecated and we never want to touch them again. This is just an easier way to do that. So if I was learning right now, I would just understand that these are two ways to do the same thing. This is the better way, but for any code or projects that have the old way, I would just keep it the old way for now and worry about it in the future if it becomes a problem. All right. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I'm Nick. This is Swiftful Thinking, and I'll see you in the next video.